Hello, I'm Oliver Colling, and this is the My 70s TV Childhood Christmas Quiz. Welcome back to a very festive edition of our regular 70s-focused TV quiz. Now, given this show is being released in the run-up to Christmas, it's only fair that our questions should be draped in a bit of tinsel and feature Christmas memories from the 1970s. So put down your fortune-telling fish, slip on your Christmas jumper, grab a pen and paper, and get ready for a bit of 70s TV trivia. As usual, it's just for fun. We have 20 questions across a range of TV trivia. So why not make yourself a snowball, grab a box of orange-flavoured Matchmakers, and settle down to play. Okay, let's get underway with round one. And this round sees the return of our much beloved Spin the Wheel round. And this time we'll be asking questions about Christmas-related TV in one year of the 1970s. So to find out which one, let's spin the wheel. And it's landed on 1974. Right, so let's transport ourselves back in time to Christmas 1974. Question 1. On Christmas Day 1974, there was not a new Morecambe and Wise Christmas show. Instead, the pair were interviewed and highlights of previous shows were shown instead. But who was the interviewer asking the questions? Question 2. After the Queen's speech was shown on ITV in 1974, what was the big film shown immediately afterwards? And here's a clue. It was regularly shown around Christmas and bank holidays and featured an all-star cast. Question 3. At 11:25 in the schedule, BBC One showed a live programme from the National Children's Home at Harpenden, which featured Basil Brush, the stars of Vision On, Shawaddy Waddy and Michael Crawford, amongst many others, in between the residents getting Christmas gifts and being patted on the head by celebrities and so on. But who were the co-hosts of the show? So which two people were the co-hosts of the show? Question 4. At 12:25 on BBC One, we had a Laurel and Hardy film, as we often did. And this one was Way Out West, where Stan and Ollie go prospecting for gold. What was the song from that film which later got to number 2 in the UK charts? And question 5. Finally, back to the Queen's speech in 1974. What followed its broadcast on BBC One? And this is something I've mentioned in previous podcasts a number of times. All right, so how was that? Hope you've got a good start under your belt. So let's go on to round 2. And in place of our normal Name That Tune round, we're going to be looking back at the pop charts, or the hit parade, as I believe some young groovy kids might have called it in the 70s. The questions are very simple. I'll give you a year, then you write down the song and the artist, which was the Christmas number 1. Okay, all clear? Well, let's go. And the first year I'd like the Christmas number 1 for is 1976. Question 2, you can give me the Christmas number 1 in 1973. Question 3. What was Christmas number 1 in 1978? Question 4. What was the first Christmas number 1 of the 1970s in 1970? And question 5. The following year, 1971. What was the Christmas number 1? Some happy memories there, I hope. And now on to our final round. Yes, we're only having 3 rounds today, as our normal general round, TV Times, is now a fantastic double edition covering Christmas and New Year. Do you remember the excitement when the double issue of TV Times and the Radio Times came out? I used to get so excited because it meant lots of great TV on the way, and also that Christmas was just around the corner. So let's play round 3. Question 1. Every year, a series of science lectures were shown on the BBC at Christmas time. Which body provided them? The signal man, was A Ghost Story for Christmas, first shown in 1976, starring Denham Elliott, and then shown regularly at Christmas thereafter. Who was the author of the original story on which the programme was based? Question 3. Which popular folk group, regularly mentioned in our podcasts, used to host a Christmas Day show in the 1970s? Question 4. What was the traditional 1970s warm-up show before the Queen's speech on BBC One? So what was on every year in the 70s just before the Queen's speech? Question 5. A bank holiday, with Christmas being no exception, was always marked by a show made up of excerpts from Walt Disney films linked together by a celebrity. But what was that show called? Question 6. What was ITV's top-rated show for Christmas in 1971? Question 7. What did the Blue Peter Repeal ask us to send in 1973? So what do we have to collect and send in for the Blue Peter Repeal in 1973? Question 8. The finale of which comedy series attracted an audience of over 18 million on Christmas Day 1979? Question 9. On Christmas Day 1970, the BBC showed a pantomime, Robinson Crusoe. Lynn Kennington starred as the principal boy in the role of Robinson Crusoe, but who starred as her lesser-known brother Billy, who had lots of quite small friends who sang and danced with him? And question 10, finally, back to Morecambe and Wise. Well, it is Christmas after all. In their famous sketch with Andre Previn, or Andre Preview, what piece was Eric trying to play with Andre and the orchestra? So there we are, 20 festive questions in the bag. And whilst you're checking your answer, let's go back to our bonus question from our recent Doctor Who themed quiz. I asked you how many episodes of Doctor Who were broadcast in the 1970s for the first time, not including repeats. And the answer, assuming my maths is okay, is an incredible 270 episodes. So if you're within 10 either way, then you're correct and get a point. Well done if you got that right. This week's bonus question is one about my childhood Christmases, and it's something that I've mentioned in previous podcasts at this time of year. So, as I say, as mentioned in one of our Christmas specials, what was my favourite ever Christmas present? Was it A, Action Man, B, Subbuteo, or C, a train set? What do you think? All of those were very much favourites of mine, but which was the very best one? If you got the answer, share it with us. And you can email me at quiz@my70stvchildhood.com. So, on to the answers for our festive quiz. Question 1. On Christmas Day 1974, no new Morecambe and Wise. Instead, there was an interview. And who was the interviewer? Well, it could only be Michael Parkinson. Question 2. What was the big film shown after the Queen's speech on ITV? And it was Those Magnificent Men in Their Flying Machines. Question 3. At 11:25 in 1974, BBC One showed a live programme for the National Children's Home. It was always children's homes or hospitals, wasn't it? I mean, I should think the last thing I would want is to be visited by a celebrity on Christmas Day if I'm feeling ill in hospital or if I'm in the children's home. But anyway, who were the co-hosts of the show? And it was Michael Aspel and, almost inevitably, Rolf Harris. Question 4. Which song from Way Out West was later number 2 in the UK charts? And the answer is, the song is actually called Trail of the Lonesome Pine, but many of you will know it as In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, and both are acceptable for the point. And question 5. What followed the Queen's speech on BBC One in 1974? And it was something that I could never understand. It was Billy Smart's Christmas Circus. Why they had to put us through that year after year, I don't know. Okay, round 2, Christmas number ones. Question 1, what was Christmas number 1 in 1976? And that was When a Child is Born, sung by Johnny Mathis. Question 2, in 1973, I think the archetypal Christmas record was at number 1. It's Merry Christmas Everybody by Slade. Question 3, 1978. And sitting at number 1 was Mary's Boy Child by Boney M. Question 4, 1970. The first Christmas number 1 of the 1970s was a rather unchristmassy one. It was I Hear You Knocking by Dave Edmunds. And question 5, what was the 1971 Christmas number 1? Well, it was one of the most famous comedy records of the 1970s, much beloved of Ed Stewpot Stewart on Junior Choice. It was Ernie, the Fastest Milkman in the West by Benny Hill. All right, now on to round 3, our TV Times Christmas and New Year double issue. Question 1. Who provided the science lectures that were shown on the BBC at Christmas? And that was the Royal Institution. Question 2. The Signal Man, Scary Ghost Story, was based on an original story by Charles Dickens. Question 3. The folk group who regularly had a Christmas Day show in the 1970s was the Spinners. And question 4. What traditionally came before the Queen's speech on BBC One? It was the Christmas Top of the Pops. And question 5. What was the Walt Disney clip show called? And it was Disney Time. Question 6. What was ITV's top-rated show for Christmas in 1971? And it was Carry On Christmas. Do you remember that? Question 7. What did the Blue Peter Appeal ask us to send in 1973? Well, it was one of the regular things they used to ask for, and it was used postage stamps. And I still don't really know what they did with them to raise money, but if anybody knows, just drop me an email. Question 8. The finale of which comedy series attracted an audience of over 18 million on Christmas Day 1979? And that was To the Manor Born. Question 9. On Christmas Day 1970, the BBC showed a pantomime, and the star was Robinson Crusoe's lesser-known brother Billy, who had lots of quite small friends, and that was a clue in the question. It was Ken Dodd, together with his Diddy Men. And finally, question 10. Back to Morecambe and Wise. In their famous sketch, where Eric was playing all of the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order, with Andre Previn, Eric was trying to play Grieg's Piano Concerto. So how did you do? Are you a fantastic festive know-it-all? Or are you reaching for the QC British Sherry to drown your sorrows? Whatever your score, I hope you've enjoyed playing, and I hope you'll join us next week for our annual Christmas special edition. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Take care. Don't forget to like, rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts, and join us again soon for more from My 70s TV Childhood and the My 70s TV Childhood quiz.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!